What are the disadvantages of home education? This question is often asked, but why would you look at the disadvantages of something that you really want to go into? Before people sign up their children for school, do they look at the disadvantages of going to school? Or people just do it because that's what everybody else is doing? If you want something, you just have to go for it, especially if it's nothing life-threatening. You have been teaching your children all their lives, really, from the time they're born until they go to school. So if you can do that, why can't you carry on with this journey? It doesn't have to stop at the age of 4 or 5 when children go to school. It doesn't. So the only disadvantage I can think of, or maybe some people can perceive it as a disadvantage, is spending more time with your children. A lot of time, too much time, especially if you don't have any help. When you choose to do this home education thing, it can be a very, very lonely journey. Very, very lonely, because first of all, you have people against home education. This is a piece of dark brown sugar. People who are against home education are waiting for you to fail. And those people who are saying school is the best thing ever and every child should go to school. So you have those forces against you. But if you're a person who's headstrong and know what they want, you won't really let any of that affect you in any way, because that's what you want and that's what you're going to do. So if you are a person who doesn't like to spend a lot of time with their children, then of course home education is not for you. I, for example, have 5 children. All of them are home educated, and I did most of the stuff on my own, especially when they're growing up. The good thing about this is I had the option to stay at home. I actually asked my husband about that, staying at home so that I can teach the children, because that's something I really wanted to do after finding out what schools are really like in England. And it's not really all about education or learning. Sometimes it's more about putting certain agendas across, and I didn't want that. So I decided to do it myself. So if you know what's good for your children and you really, really want to do it, forget disadvantages, look at the advantages of what you're doing and just go for it. It's like when you want to travel and then you look, the disadvantages of traveling. Of course, you find so many examples out there of the disadvantages of traveling, and then you won't travel because of all those disadvantages. No, you carry on because that's what you want to do. There are more advantages than disadvantages for traveling, just like they are for home education. And this is my case and a lot of people who home educate. Like what I was saying about spending more time with your children, you just know that it's part and parcel of it. If it's something that you feel, oh no, I cannot do this, then obviously home education isn't for you. But if you tell yourself, this is what I want to do, you roll with it. When the children are a lot younger, obviously it's going to be a lot more difficult. They're spending time and trying to find your feet, just like with anything else. You know, none of us were born doing things we do now. But obviously, other than the obvious things like breathing and stuff. But other than that, we had to learn certain things, certain skills. Even when you start work, for the first time you start a job, you don't just know what to do. You actually get to learn the ropes. So each time you are learning something new. And then until you eventually adjust to a routine, and sometimes something shakes up that usual routine, and then you have to readjust to the situation. I'll give an example of myself. When I actually started home educating, I had 2 children by then. So the first one, the older one, was learning more than the younger one. So at least it was a lot easier because I could use the younger one's nap times to do more focused learning with the older one. So the things that really needed focus, learning new concepts, new topics, were done when the younger one was sleeping. And then when the other one is up, that's when it's more laid back stuff. And the good thing, like what I've always done, is learning through play. So I was very active in what I chose. I didn't just let the children watch anything and everything. I would put something that's deliberately educational, where there's animation or websites. And at that time, because they had not been to school, they were not exposed to other things that could be quite popular with other children, which could distract them from their learning. So they didn't really have a comparison. So if I put something educational, they didn't think it was boring. They just watched it. So that's another thing. You don't get much influence from outside forces when they're younger. I am making some chocolate chip cookies. I only had white chocolate chips, which I used, and obviously the remainder chocolate that I broke into pieces. And I'm making, these are very popular, the egg-free chocolate chip cookies. The recipe is in the description in the link below. I like to reuse my baking paper until I can't reuse it anymore, and then I throw it away and I get a new sheet. So that's why there are these stamps from other cookies before. With me having 5 children, home educating was quite tricky. But the good thing, obviously, the 5 children didn't come at once. So I got time to adjust and learn. Some people say, oh, how did you home educate with a newborn? Yeah, that's a hard one. But because it's home education, which we do, it is easy to adjust. I just adjust according to the situation. I don't force myself to do things when I'm not well, or even when the children are not well, or some of them are ill, some of them are okay. We actually take downtime. I like this because for me, it's about education, not meeting targets, deadlines, and cramming stuff. So because it's long-time education, you can adjust. First of all, the children were a lot advanced for their ages. So if they're advanced for their ages, really, advanced for their ages if they were in school, that is. And this I only found out only after one time there was somebody who reported, a neighbor. It actually wasn't even a neighbor, there's somebody, it is a long story, but somebody reported that when we moved to a new area that there's a person with children who are school age but don't go to school. So I then got a letter in the post saying that we had a report that there are children who are school aged who don't go to school. It was from the council. So, and they asked if they could come and do some checks. So before then, I hadn't had any checks at all, ever. So I was like, oh, I don't want them to come. Why should they come? It's not like I have to fit any specific boxes. I have to teach anything in particular, because what's compulsory is education. And that education can be anything. You don't even have to stick to a curriculum. So I said to my husband, oh, I got this letter in the post and they wanted to come and see the children. Then my husband was like, oh, it's okay. Just let them come because this is the time to assess them. At that time, my eldest was about 7-8 years old. And because they'd never been to school, I didn't have to tell anyone that I'm home educating my children. So this was the first time that I actually got a letter from council requesting a home visit. My husband said, okay, I guess this is the time to get the council to come and assess the children, and we can see what level they are and if there's anything that we need to do to improve their learning or anything like that. So anyway, I responded and I said, okay, yeah, that's fine, you can come. And then we arranged a meeting And the man who came to assess the children after that was so amazed. Even I was amazed, because while I thought that I knew my children were learning and they were doing quite well, because based on books, obviously they had other things that they were doing even better. But I was talking about the levels that they were with their maths and everything. I actually thought it was absolutely normal. I thought it was normal stuff. But this man, the one who came from the elective home education department of the council that I was under, he said, whatever you're doing, just carry on, because these children are really, really clever and bright. And if they were in school, they will be 4 or 5 years ahead of the age group. I was like, what? Really? He asked me my method of home educating. He asked if I have a timetable. I was like, no, I don't have a timetable. I just go with the flow. Whatever we feel like doing that day, we do it. If it's summertime and it's warm outside and we feel like going outside, that's what we do. We can spend a whole day in a park. We can spend a whole week without touching any books. And it's like, oh, whatever you're doing, it's working. So carry on. And he said, had I come and the children were at an unacceptable level, then I would have to come again, and even more regularly, at least once a year, to check up on them and work with you to help you bring them up to a level that's acceptable. So because they're ahead, I don't need to visit often, but if you ever need anything, just let us know and I can always come. So these now are going in the oven for a few minutes. They'll spread out. You'll see what they look like when they get out of the oven. If you like your cookies hot or warm, you can eat it almost immediately. But I'm going to package these, so I'm going to leave them to cool completely. They're still quite warm, so I can't package them yet. Back to home education and the disadvantages of home education. Time with your children, you can manage it as they get older. You know, you can actually have time to make a cup of tea when they are doing something. So you can actually put on an educational show, for example, and while they're watching that, use that time as your time to just do something that you want, even to sit down with a hot cup of tea or even a book for a few minutes, or take a nap on the sofa, or take a quick nap upstairs. But just depends if the at the ages of your children. So these are the sort of things that you can tailor make eventually, depending on the ages of your children and other things that you do. But there is time for naps. You can actually make time for those at a later stage. So the cookies are done. You can see they're nice and brown, even a light golden brown at the bottom. So if you like your cookies warm, you can actually break one and eat one now while they're warm, and the chocolate chips are still soft and the chocolate is still quite runny and warm. I like those. But for the rest of them, I'm going to put them on a cooling rack to cool completely, because I am going to package them. As I was saying about the disadvantages of home education, the most one, or the one I think is probably the only one, which is not a real advantage, because which is not a real disadvantage anyway, because you can have a workaround, is spending a lot of time with the children and not having time to yourself. But this can be adjusted as you get to know what works for your children, what doesn't. You can actually have time for a nap in the afternoon, even if it's for a few minutes. You can actually leave them to watch something in a safe environment, of course, and just leave them to watch something. Take a nap on the sofa, take a nap in your room, make a hot cup of tea or something, and just relax while they're watching, and then come back to them later. So I'm going to leave these to cool completely before I package them. If anyone asks me the home education disadvantage, I really don't have any. And some people say, oh, there's always a disadvantage for everything. Yeah, probably. and it depends how you want to view it. And so for me, not a disadvantage, the downside, which many things have downsides too, and you choose which one you're going to tolerate and not tolerate. So it's just the spending time with children all the time, especially when you don't have help. I ended up where can I put this? Here, maybe. Because my husband had to work, I had to, you know, kind of like make time to just manage things for myself and see what works for me. So I had compulsory nap time in the afternoon. I knew they're not gonna nap, but I would have compulsory nap time in the afternoon at some point. I didn't really care what they did, but I'll tell them, okay, if you bribing does work sometimes for children. Oh yeah, you do need to bribe them sometimes, and I'm not ashamed. I would. Okay, if you sleep or don't get out of your room for half an hour or something, then you'll get something, you know, even a book or a story or something, anything to keep them in their room for a while. So yeah, whatever works for you, just to sit down and have some quiet time. There's no harm in that, as long as they're in a nice, safe place. I don't see what the problem is. Which one's better? I think this looks nice. I have these packages of cookies. They only take one, of course, but you can have packages that take more than one. So you can package them as 2, 3s, or whatever, depending on the size of the cookies. These are good as favors, or even a cookie sale. If you have a cookie sale, you can already pre-package them and sell them. There are also different types of bags. Some of them you can actually tie and put a ribbon in them. I also have a roll of these. I don't like the text. I ordered these by accident. I don't like the handmade with love part. Handmade would be brilliant, but some people like them. So yeah, maybe. Would I recommend home education? Of course, always. And it's a great option, even though over the years I've had options to take them to school. I didn't utilize those options because I eventually moved to better areas and had more money to afford to send them to better schools if I wanted to, but I never did because I loved the flexibility of home education. It was good to home educate. The best part of it was traveling whenever we wanted, and off peak, fantastic. That's the best. Now that some of the children are older, they're in university. The other one recently started sixth form. We don't all travel together at the same time, but we also try to make it work so that we can synchronize at least one holiday in the year between uni and other things that they're all getting into. But yeah, time holidays are the best thing. That's one of the best reasons to home educate, actually. Which one do you like best? Is it better in the front, on the side, or at the back? I have a favorite already. This one's my favorite one. I like this. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.